Hi, friends. Welcome back to What They Don't Say. I am in the mood to talk about my dead dad, which is why I'm also wearing this shirt that says Daddy. I felt like it was very fitting for the topic today. And the reason that I'm wanting to talk about my dead dad is because last night I went to the Alex Cooper, Call Her Daddy Unwell show in Denver. I'm a huge fan of her. I've literally been following her since forever, but I made this shirt. I'll put a picture of it here that says, "My dad is dead, but my father is alive and unwell." I'm not talking about Jesus in this scenario, although I do love Jesus. Anyways, and if you listen to Call Her Daddy or anything like that, that shirt will make a lot of sense. We call her father, but unwell is her brand. And there were so many people who came up to me and were like, "Oh my gosh, my dad's dead too," or "My dad is basically dead because he's not involved in my life." And it was just an overwhelming amount of positive experiences of meeting people who are also in the Dead Dad Club. And so I was waking up today and I'd been editing another episode and I thought, you know what, screw it. I want to record an episode about my dead dad because it just felt right. It just feels right. Let's get into it. I find that with death in general, it's something that makes people super uncomfortable. And think about it. When you say, "Oh, so-and-so died," everybody's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry for your loss," which, is appreciated because it's the only way that the other person knows how to show empathy and sympathy for you. But frankly, whenever somebody says, "I'm sorry," I'm like, it's not your fault. Why are you apologizing? Also, then I feel the need to say a lot of times "Oh no, it's really okay. I'm fine." I try to console the other person because I've just made them uncomfortable by telling them that my dad's dead. Does that make sense? The day that I found out my dad died, I was actually driving with my mom from Colorado Springs to New Mexico. Now, at this time in my life, I was still figure skating full time. And so although I had not moved to Colorado Springs yet for ice skating, I spent my entire summer there, all of my breaks. I went up multiple times a month because my main coach was there. So skating was my life revolved around skating. And to paint the picture further, I didn't really have family dinners. I didn't go on a whole lot of vacations with my family. It really was I would wake up before school. I would go to skating. My mom would drive me to school straight from ice skating. I'd literally eat in the car, change in the car, and I'd go to school. And then after school, my mom would drive me to skating. I'd eat in the car, change in the car again. Right when I got home from skating, I needed to do homework. I needed to eat. So we didn't have family dinners. I ate my dinner while I did my homework and then I went to bed. My brother would be going to fencing practice. That was his sport. My dad would take my brother, or sometimes my mom would. But by the time I got home, my brother was gone. And by the time my brother got home that night, I would already be in bed. And that was my life. And skating really was the thing that was above everything for me. So back to my story. I was in Colorado Springs for the majority of the summer training for ice skating, and my mom and I were driving back to New Mexico for a weekend. I don't remember why. And I was sitting in the back and she was sitting in the front, and she got this phone call. And I remember her saying no, please tell me what? No. And she was really scared, and she the tone of her voice was really intense. And all I remember thinking was something is really wrong. I could hear in her throat that she needed more information and something really bad had happened. And so she pulls the car over and I just started crying. I didn't even know what the fuck was going on, but I'm just crying. She turns to me and she says, "Dad's plane crashed this morning." For more context, because I just realized you probably need a little bit more. My dad was a pilot, so he had a plane. And so he would sometimes go on weekend trips with me and my friends, or my brother and his friends. And I understand that's a very, very fortunate thing to do, but it was just his thing. It was his hobby, is what he loved to do. He was building a plane. He had a plane. It was just his happy place was flying. On this weekend, he had taken my brother and my brother's best friend to Sedona, Arizona for a boys' trip, which was a very common thing for him to do. And so, I'm sitting there. My mom tells me that the plane went down. And my immediate thought is oh, well, they're going to be fine, right? They're fine. I was thinking, maybe they'll be paralyzed or something, but they're going to be fine. And she says, "Honey, people don't usually survive plane crashes." And immediately I just start crying and I don't even know what to do. And we stayed on the side of the road for a while, and I'm getting a little offhand because this episode isn't about how it happened, but I do feel that context is important. ultimately we made it back to New Mexico, and my dad, it's kind of weird for me to talk about this because I'm like really proud of my parents' achievements, but I never want it to come off as like gross or bragging or anything. But my dad was a long distance runner, and he was a 2-time Olympian, and so he was fairly well known in the running world. And so when we got back to our house, there were news stations outside of the house, and I didn't even really know what was going on because I was 11 years old at the time. So everything was really confusing to me. A few weeks later, we had the funeral, and I remember this one woman shaking my hand at the end of the funeral because there was a lot of people there, and she said, "You need to be strong for your mom." I'm sorry. What are you doing telling an 11-year-old girl to stay strong for her mom when she just lost half of her family? Like, who? I don't know. But with that being said, that one moment really defined how I took on grief. And more than taking on grief, it really defined how I didn't take on grief. Seriously, I don't think I cried about their death for like years after that. And if I did, it was in private. To this day, it's still hard for me to cry in front of my mom about my dad and my brother because I feel this like need to be strong, and it's almost become weird for me to cry about it, which is not normal. Like, you should cry about somebody who's dead. Like, that's good and that's healthy. But seriously, like, I feel like it's so weird when I do that. That's long story short of how he died. My brother's dead too, but that's a different episode. But one of my biggest things is I don't love that my dad is dead. Like, that sucks, okay? But something that it has given me is this epic sense of dark humor. And I'm not saying that I am the funniest and that I am a comedian. I'm just saying that there is absolutely no hesitation that I feel to make a dead dad joke. And I love it. I love making dead dad jokes on Father's Day. I love when my friend is sitting there like, my dad didn't answer the phone. Like, I really need to talk to him about something. And I'm like, same. Like, I love having a dark sense of humor. Kind of back to the story, but this is, don't worry, this is going somewhere. So my dad dies my summer before 6th grade. And 6th grade, I was starting at a new school. So it was like a fresh start. And it was this whole, like, I had things to look forward to, things to be nervous about. And I was especially nervous about people knowing me as like the girl with the dead dad. Like, it was in the news, it was in newspapers, it was on radio stations. Actually, fun fact, the day after they died, I woke up to my alarm clock, like back in the day when we used to use actual alarm clocks and not our phones. And I would always wake up to the same radio station. And on this radio station, they said Pat Porter and both of his children have died in a plane crash. And so I knew in that moment, like what a weird feeling to sit there and be like that really could have been me. Also, why did they think I was on that plane? Also, what a horrible fucking way to wake up. Anyways, so going to 6th grade, my dad's dead. I'm starting at a new school. Things are good. And 6th grade was kind of just normal. And 7th grade rolls around and I start to realize that I'm like obsessed with men. Like, not men, boys. Okay, boys, because men in 7th grade are actually boys. They're not men yet. In hindsight, I am seeing now that I was just looking for validation. When I had a crush on a boy, I would literally think about him all day, every day. I would write about him. I would text him on Kik. I don't know if you guys remember that. And like, we used to play these truth or dare games on Kik. I don't know if you guys ever did that, but we called it Tord, like Tord, like, oh, do you guys want to play Tord? And we would do these horrible games where, we'd say, oh, okay, like these 3 boys, like you need to rate the girls in this group chat 1 to 5 and like on their looks and their personality. And which is just like such a horrible thing to do. And I can't believe we even did that. If I was not number 1 on a boys list, like I lost my shit. Like I would be crying and I would be texting them paragraphs of like, why don't you love me? And like, what's wrong with you? And like, I hate myself. And also I was pretty sad, but I didn't feel sad because of the trauma I had experienced. I felt sad because I just hated myself. Like I hated the way I looked. I hated the way I acted. I was so sad. I was doing some self-harm. Like it was just this like hatred of myself because boys didn't like me back. And in the moment, like in 7th grade, it felt so extreme. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I don't even want to be alive anymore. I don't like the way that I look. And now when I look back to it, it's so glaringly obvious that I didn't really have, like, I had male figures in my life that sort of, they didn't replace my dad, but like I had one, I still have one to this day in particular who has treated me like a daughter, and I love him so much, but nobody can ever actually play the role of your father. Like, your father is always your father, and there's nobody that will replace that. So I was missing this huge piece of male validation in my life. And although I don't have a lot of memories with my dad, I do feel that the ones that we did have were really lovely. Like, I remember us going on date nights to IHOP in his like nice car, and I would get all dressed up in a big poofy dress, and we could have gone to any restaurant, and I always wanted to go to IHOP, and he happily went. Like, no questions asked, just make daddy's little girl happy type of a thing. So 7th grade rolls around, and you realize that validation from your father is really big. Like, even if you don't get a lot of it, and maybe you're somebody whose father has never given you validation, that shows up in your life and your relationship with men. I'm not a therapist, I'm not a professional, but if you aren't getting that validation from your father, or you don't have a dad, then of course you're going to be looking for male validation in other places. Like, no shit, Sherlock, you don't get it from your dad, which is a biological connection that you're supposed to get validation from. And so I spent, several years of my life where my mom, I only met 2 boyfriends that she had, and I literally only met them, I think, 1 or 2 times, if that. Like, she didn't date a lot. She kept things pretty private, but I always wanted her to get remarried. Like, I had this vision of her getting remarried and me having new step siblings, because I all of a sudden was an only child, and I've always felt like I wasn't meant to be an only child. This is not supposed to be a story time, and it kind of is just turning into a story time, but fuck it. I hope you're having a good time here. We're learning a bit about each other today, okay? Maybe you're learning a little bit about yourself today. I don't know. But yeah, so I had this like desire for my mom to get remarried because of what I thought it would bring. And then one day I was going to a Sadie's dance, and my mom said that she was going on a date. And so that it was good that she would have to pick me up from the dance because she needed a reason to leave the date, especially if it was bad. And I said, great, sounds good. So she goes on this date, she picks me up. That was in February or April, somewhere in that time range. And this man starts to hang around our family a lot more. And, he's not like there late nights, but all of a sudden my mom is gone like till 3 a.m. some days. And I'm cooking dinner for myself, and the house is completely alone, and I'm just there. And that's fine. And it's perfectly legal for me to be alone. Like, I was in my teen years at this point. I was very self-sufficient. Like, I could cook for myself. I could clean up. But it was this thing of like, oh, I went from being my mom's absolute world to she has a boyfriend, and they're like hanging out. One day I was in Colorado Springs for skating, and my mom was flying in, and I get a text from her that says, oh my gosh, I did all of this work on these Evites and they all got deleted. And I said, Evites? For what? And she goes, our wedding, silly goose. They said wedding? I think that was to the wrong person. I had no indication that my mom was getting engaged. I had no indication that she was marrying this man. I mean, they had literally, this was in June, and they had started talking in February or April. Like, this was really fast. So she meets this man. She ends up getting engaged a few months later, and then they're married a few months later. So within like 6 months or so, my mom had met a man, dated him, engaged, and was married. And I understand it's different when you're at like a certain age, like when you know, blah, blah, blah. But it is a thing where I had so hoped that my mom would find somebody for so long. And then all of a sudden she did. And I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, I remember on my wedding day, I remember on her wedding day, I gave a speech, and then she like went on her honeymoon. And my new step siblings, who are much older than me, like they don't live in the house or anything, they drove me back to my house, and we were like putting away all of the stuff from the wedding. And I was just like, wow, like I'm no longer my mom's. Like now I'm sharing her. And from that moment, shit really started to shift for me. Before this day, I literally didn't want to drink. I had no desire to drink. I didn't want to do drugs. I didn't want a tattoo. I didn't want to have like sex with boys. Like I seriously was like, I'm not doing any of that until I'm 21 or older or married or whatever. And she goes on her honeymoon, and within the next week, I had had my first sip of alcohol. I like didn't care about anything anymore. And this spiraled into several years of kind of like not going off the deep end. Like I didn't have a problem, but every opportunity that I had to like drink or hang out with boys or sneak out, I was taking it. And in the moment, and I was getting in trouble constantly, which for a new, like a new stepdad, he's like, this child is wild and this is not what I signed up for. But in the moment, I just thought of it as this thing of like, I so badly just want to do all this stuff. Like I just want to be a normal kid because skating is not normal. And like, I just want to, party and be with boys and blah, blah, blah. And it felt like this thing of like, I just want to be normal, mom. I just want to be normal. But what I realized is that I was, once again, in hindsight through therapy and from time, I realized it was this thing of actually, I'm really sad that I don't have a dad anymore. And there's this new man that my mom is not asking me to call dad. She's not asking me to replace my father with this man. But my life is really different now that he's in it than before. All of a sudden, I'm having family dinners. All of a sudden, we're doing Bible studies. All of a sudden, my mom is doing all these things that I never even knew she liked. And I'm like questioning, who she is. And it's because I never even processed the death of my actual dad, because I was supposed to be strong when I was young and I had so badly wanted her to be married. I clearly was really upset with how it was handled. So not only had I not processed the death of my dad, but I also hadn't processed the fact that I'm now going to be sharing my mom with somebody else, which was something that I didn't even realize I was afraid of happening, if that makes sense. A thought that I had, backtracking a little bit to the stuff where my mom's remarried now, and I know that the man she's married to is better than my dad. Like I know that this man treats her so much better. He is so much more caring and loving, and they're doing the activities that my mom always wanted to do with my dad, but he never wanted to do. And for a long time, it was hard because I hadn't seen this side of my mom, and I kind of thought that it was fake. I honestly thought that she was doing all of this just to please a man. And what I realized is she's actually just able to fully be her because she's in a happy and healthy relationship. And beyond that, I can rest comfortably knowing that she is with somebody, and that the pressure of me having to hold her and carry her and give her the attention and affection that she needs, that's not on me. That's on him. That's her partner. And if you are the child of a single mother, hey girl, hey, and know that if she hasn't found somebody or she's not looking for somebody, it's still not on you to provide all of that love and affection for your mom. That's not your job. You're a child. You are her child. It is not your job to provide all the affection that a husband would provide for her. I think a lot of times in situations like this, kids can put that burden on themselves, and just you need to know that that's not your job and that is not your burden to carry. I think that the best thing you could do is be there for your mom. Like sit there, cry with her, and show her that it's okay to cry in front of you. Because I also know that a lot of moms try to be strong for their kids, which is good because frankly, there is responsibility. You do need to be strong for your kids because kids don't know how to function for themselves yet. Like they're not full grown human beings. They're not adults. If you're going through this, don't ever forget that it's not your burden to carry. I definitely had glorified my dad. I mean, I was a father's daughter. Like I loved my dad, and he was forever frozen in my mind as this suit. Like my dad was so funny. Like he could make anybody in the room laugh. He was just a comedian. I was a little bit afraid of him because he was pretty strict, but for the most part, like my dad was just everything to me in my eyes. And that's because I was 11 years old when he died, and I was daddy's little girl. And what I didn't know and what I know now is that I think I was saved from a significant amount of trauma by him being dead. I know that's a little crazy. But let me explain. So 2 things here. 1, he died when I was 11, And I think anything, I mean, frankly, every year in your life is kind of a formative year, but your teens are incredibly formative, right? Like that's when you're going through puberty, that's when you're maturing. There's all of this, frontal lobe development that's going on, and you're experiencing all these things for the first time. And like that's really important. Before your teens is important too, but you don't really like understand what's going on in life. Like you're functioning, you're doing your homework, you're eating your snacks, your mom's driving you around, but you don't really understand a lot of the big pieces of life. And so when they died, it was just this thing of like, they're dead, now you move forward. And what I didn't realize is that my mom had actually hidden a lot of who my father really was from me. Turns out he was kind of a narcissistic, OCD, manipulative. I don't want to call him a piece of shit, but he definitely was not the best man. And I know now, like, he was an extreme narcissist. He did not treat my mom well, and she did everything in her power to hide that from her kids because she wanted to protect us. But I frequently think, like, what would have happened if I, to this day, had a narcissistic father in my life? Like, what would I thought that my relationship with men was bad, which it was through my teen years. But what would it be like if I really grew up with a narcissistic father? Because I didn't know he was a narcissist until much after the fact. So I think that I have been saved a lot of grief by him dying younger because I was old enough to understand what happened, but I wasn't really old enough to understand the huge impacts and like what it really meant. And also him dying when I was so young enabled me to be shielded from the dark sides of him that I didn't see yet because I was so young. And if you have a narcissistic father who is alive and it's horrible, I'm so sorry. And I don't really know what to say to that. But what I do think about is I've been hard on my mom in periods of my life, but once I started to learn how much my dad put her through and how much love she continued to give me and my brother, even if she didn't always show me love in the way that was best or healthiest, regardless, I've never ever questioned the fact that my mom loves me. And knowing that like she had to go through so much horrible treatment from him and she stuck by his side. She didn't talk about him publicly in a negative way. And so that's a really interesting thing. And it gives me a new appreciation for, I don't think that you should stay in a narcissistic relationship. That's not what I'm saying. But I am saying that like I had put my dad on this pedestal and I thought it was weird that we didn't really celebrate his birthday or like on the death anniversary. We really talked a lot about my brother, but not my dad. And I always wondered why. And I felt like, well, why isn't my mom talking more about my dad? And it kind of made me angry sometimes. But once I realized like, oh shit, it's because he frankly put her through a lot. And she is still to this day undoing the trauma that he caused her and the trauma that she felt from all that maltreatment. And it's enabled me to look at her through a softer lens because not everything was perfect. And my dad was not this funny, successful, athletic guy. Well, he was that, but he was also the type of guy who would get mad at my mom if she made noise while cooking and never believed that he was wrong and a whole lot of other things. My mom frequently apologizes when I start asking her about like details about her relationship with my dad because she's like, I don't want to ruin the way that you see him. And the thing is the side of him that my mom saw was really different than what I saw. And it's almost like they're two different people. So like for me, I really like to think about them literally as two different people. Like I can mourn the loss of my dad and like think of him in this really positive, good light, but I can also know that he wasn't the best person. And I can know that that wasn't my experience, but it was an experience for somebody else that I love. And it's kind of like you need to separate them. You can love somebody who is gone and know that you had a good experience and also know that they hurt people and that they weren't the best. Like you kind of just need to think of them as two different people sometimes. Let's take a moment to talk about things that you shouldn't say to somebody who is experiencing death. 1, be strong. No, absolutely not. You don't ever tell anybody who has just literally had somebody die to be strong, because there is no reason for them to be strong. In fact, what you should tell them is, hey, when you're breaking the fuck down, let me know and I will be there. What you should say is, hey, I made food for you because I know that eating and cooking for yourself is really hard right now. Like, you should be that person that shows up in the areas that you know they can't do for themselves. Socializing is going to be hard. Not talking about it is going to be hard. Let them talk about it. Let them cry and tell them you're going to be there. Do not tell them to be strong, because that's telling them to take the fact that someone in their life is literally never going to be there ever again. They no longer exist on this earth, and is saying, put that in a box in the back of your closet and shut the door. Do not do that. That makes me angry. I don't know why. I get a little emotional about it. That's one. 2, everything happens for a reason. Maybe it does, but when somebody has just experienced death, they don't need to try to think about the positive or like the silver lining of them dying yet. Let them figure that out on their own. You don't need to be the one to tell them that. Don't talk about your small problems. And I know I've said many times in the show, like, it's not comparing traumas, like, it's different. Yes, that is true. Like, I do believe that everybody's trauma is a big deal. We shouldn't diminish anybody's trauma. But when somebody's experienced loss, like, you don't need to talk about the fact that your bed sheets are stained. You don't need to talk about the fact that your sink is broken. They don't want to hear that right now, because all they're thinking about, all they can feel is suffering and hurt. And unless they have specifically told you, hey, please tell me about your problems because I'd rather think about yours than mine, then just put that away. You don't tell them. Don't talk about that. Truthfully, I do think one of the best things that you could do for someone when somebody has died is to bring them food. Maybe not a casserole. I don't like casseroles. I don't know why that's like the death thing. I mean, I guess it's because a casserole is easy. You can heat it up and then you have a lot of it for a long period of time. Something that somebody did for us is they got us a bunch of frozen breakfast sandwiches, which was awesome because we had a lot of people staying in our house, like family and stuff, before the funeral. And the breakfast sandwiches, I remember they were actually super fucking delicious. And it was really nice because eating is hard for a lot of people after traumatic events. Some people eat more, some people don't eat at all. And it was really nice to just wake up. And I know I didn't have to bother my mom for breakfast. I could just like wrap the little frozen sandwich up in a paper towel and put it in the microwave for a minute. And if we had anybody staying there, they would do the same. So like that was really good. Another sort of meal thing that you could do for somebody is you can buy actual like frozen meal services. So I believe that somebody sent us a lot of Schwan. I could be wrong about that exact name, but it was basically someone could purchase us a month or a week or 3 days worth of frozen meals, and it's no cooking required. So it's not like HelloFresh where you have to actually make the meals. It's literally like you pop it in the oven or you pop it in the microwave, and those are pretty good. Alternatively, if you wanted to bring somebody a meal but you didn't want to cook and you were just going to pick up food, I would recommend getting like extra of that so that they could just heat it up and use it as leftovers throughout the week. And obviously nowadays we have DoorDash and Uber Eats, and those are also great ways. You know, you could DoorDash them a sweet treat or even flowers. But from the meal perspective, there's a whole lot of options nowadays. Another really big thing is don't forget to check in with them 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years down the line. A lot of times when death happens, people get a ton of flowers and cards and texts and emails and messages and DMs and everything saying, you know, we love you, thinking about you, let me know if you need anything. But that doesn't last very long. Like, people forget about that loss that you're experiencing. Even 2 years down the road, someone was like, why are you still acknowledging the death anniversary? Like, they died 2 years ago. Like, aren't you over it? And no, I'll never fully be over it. Okay. Like, be the person that checks in farther down the road. When you're the person with the dead family members, when the 6-month mark occurs and people have completely moved on from it, like everybody else is going to work and waking up every day and doing their life completely normally, and you're the one that's sitting there still broken and trying to put yourself back together, that's when you need people the most, is when you think everybody else has moved on and you're still deep, deep in that hurt. And so be the person that checks in on them farther out. Put it in your calendar. Like, for fuck's sake, we have technology these days. Like, you can do that. I believe in you. And maybe you're like, I can't handle death. I don't know what to say. That's okay. The worst thing is when people come to me and say, you must know how to deal with death. Like, you've had so much death in your life. Like, you just must know what to say, what to do. Absolutely the fuck not. Bitch, when somebody dies, like somebody else, like a friend of mine has somebody die, I have no earthly idea what to say. I know what to not say, but I do not know what to say. And I even still say, I'm sorry for your loss, even though like that makes no sense to me. Like, I can't think of an alternative. I usually say like, I love you so much. Like, I'm here for you. Like, let's cry about it. Let's talk memories. We'll talk about it over and over and over again if you need to. But do not expect anybody who's experienced all of this trauma to be able to know the right things to say in the right moment just because they've been through that. Does it make sense? One last thing. Overall, I don't really think about my dead dad that often. Like, it pops into my head. I continually make jokes about it. I love making jokes about it. Even if it makes everybody else uncomfortable. Once again, if you get uncomfortable from a dead dad joke, I'm sorry, but I'm actually not that sorry. Like, I am the one who has gone through the trauma. It's okay to make somebody else uncomfortable and make me laugh a bit. Period. Also, I know that you're a true friend if you're able to laugh or make the dead dad joke, which not everybody is there yet. Not everybody's there, but I do love me a dead dad joke. But yeah, overall, I don't really think about my dead dad that often. Definitely pops in, but more these days, I'm on the wavelength of like, he kind of sucked. Like, growing up is realizing that the fact that he's dead might be better. Like, that's kind of maturing. That's kind of growing up for me these days. It's a constant like working and thinking about my relationship with men. Like, it is a little weird to realize that I have no idea what it's like to have a dad. I have a stepdad. He loves me very much, and that's great. And I'm so lucky for that because I know so many people don't have that. But I have no idea what it's like to have a dad. Like, I don't call anybody daddy. Not even my boyfriend. I don't call him daddy. Quick story time. One time somebody did ask me to call them daddy during sex, and they knew, like, this person knew that my dad was dead. And I looked at them and I was like, really? You're going to ask me that one? And then he was like, oh yeah, sorry, guess not. So, that's kind of funny, which maybe you like do that because your dad's dead. Like, maybe you've got the daddy issues and maybe that's your thing. No judgment. I'm really, where the fuck am I? What am I doing? What am I talking about? Dad. That's the wavelength that I'm on. Yes, I don't think about it much. There are moments where I get a little sad. I'm like, oh, the whole like walking down the aisle thing. But ultimately, like, there are so many people with dead dads in this world. Like, so many. And I'm not saying that to say, oh, you can't be sad about it or whatever. No, I'm just saying that, like, there's a whole ass dead dads club out here, ladies and gentlemen. Like, so many people, and so many people that are here to make the jokes, that are here to laugh about it, cry about it, all of it. I guess I'm living proof that it's okay if your dad's dead. Like, you're going to be okay. I don't know. And that's like a shitty thing to say too. Like, oh, it's going to be okay. Like, fuck, bitch. I don't know if it's going to be okay. I don't feel like it's ever going to be okay. And maybe that's just the stage that you're in. And if that is the one that you're at, just stay there. Literally just sit there, stay there. Make yourself a bowl of ramen and cry. But overall, I don't think about it much. And I don't know if that's bad or that's good. But because I spent so many years suppressing the feelings around it, I try really hard that when it does come up, I just let myself sit in it, because I spent so long trying to be strong for my mom and not thinking about it and not acknowledging it. And now I think it's really important that when my brain is starting to get a little sad poo about it, I just lean in and I'm like, yep, I'm sad about my dad. And I don't tell anybody. Like, I think maybe 2 years ago was the first time that I had like really cried on the death anniversary in front of my mom. That's still a work in progress, but feel like you deserve to feel like someone's gone from your life. And if you don't think about it, don't feel guilty either. There is no rule book for grief. There is no, oh, you should mourn for 5 months and be sad. And then in month 6, you're going to work on being okay. And then by year 5, you're not going to think about it at all. And everything is going to be so good and you're going to be fully healed. No, bitch, that's not how it fucking works. There is no timeline for grief. Like, people say that there's these different stages, and I do believe there are different stages of grief, but there is no timeline. It is okay if you are completely fine 6 months after. And it's okay if 8 months in, you realize that you're not okay. And it's okay if you're 10 years later and maybe you do end up with somebody in your life who is a better father figure than your actual dad. That's okay to love that person. That's also okay to call them dad if you want to. My mom talks a lot about prioritizing the living over the dead. And I don't know if that's weird at all, but if you're alive and if the father figure in your life is better than your current father and you want to call him dad, great. If you want him to walk you down the aisle, great, do it. Prioritize the living over the dead and know that there is no time for grief. There is no time. There is time for grief. There is no timeline for grief. And it's okay if you're okay and it's okay if you're not. But whatever it is, you need to fucking sit in it, because if you don't, it's going to come out in a myriad of ways. And the worst thing that you could do for yourself is delay it until it blows up at the absolute worst time, because I promise that it will. I'm not right about a lot of things, but I know that I'm right about that one. Something I realized I didn't talk about is the fact that I have not figured out a way to work through the trauma of my mom dying. She's not dead. My mom is alive. Like, if I don't answer a phone call from my mom and I'm like hanging out with my friends, I sit there and I think, like, what if my mom dies and I didn't answer a phone call because I prioritize my friends over her? Like, I sit there and I start to freak the fuck out. The other day, my mom called me. I was cooking dinner and I really wanted to, like, cook dinner, sit and watch my show. The show that I was watching was Emily in Paris, and there were new episodes out, and I was like, oh, I'm just going to sit here. I made myself a mocktail. I have my good pasta. I'm going to watch my show. Call from mom. I can't talk to mom right now. I am food. I'm about to be wined and dined by myself. I don't have time for my mom. And so I don't answer. And I think, I'm going to call her later. And then I think, I know that she's doing a drive from Colorado Springs to New Mexico. And then I think, oh my gosh, what if she dies and I have chosen Emily in Paris and my food over my mom? How am I going to feel? And I sat there for like an hour while watching my show, just guilt tripping myself and thinking like, oh my gosh, this is horrible. Like, I should just prioritize what she is and that I love her, and I should prioritize her over my enjoyment and my whatever. And then eventually I called her and we talked for 30 minutes and everything was fine. I also, when somebody walks out the door, if they don't say I love you to me, I'm like, they're going to die. And so even if I don't know somebody very well, and even if it's a little bit weird, I usually still say, love you, bye. Because I think, oh, I will feel so much better if they die and I at least said I love you. Like, I will feel so good. Which in reality, if they died, I'd probably still feel horrible and be really sad. So I don't know what sort of self-soothing situation is going on there. But I just wanted to say that I still feel a lot of fear and guilt, and mainly fear about the people in my life just suddenly dying. And that's definitely a result of just a lot of people in my life dying, but especially my dad and my brother. That was a very sudden thing. So if you had advice on that, let me know. I try not to get stuck in the thought loop of that they're going to die, because a lot of times people don't die. And this actually is a piece of advice that my therapist gave me, and sometimes it's helpful. Every time that I have that thought of like, what if they're going to die? I might sit in that thought for a while, and I might really be in it for too long, perhaps. But when they live, I say, look, brain, here is some evidence they don't always die. And I have to literally put my body in fucking manual mode, take it out automatic, shift those gears and say, look, they are still alive. Everything is okay. Now, if someone actually did die, that would, in that moment, that would cause a whole new set of trauma. But anyways, I don't have that fully under control yet. And, it's literally been like, what are we, 2024? They died in 2012. It's been like 12 years since they've died. And I still feel that way. So yeah, and that's okay for me to feel that way. And that's okay for you to feel that way too. I want to do a really fun episode soon, and I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what topic it should be on. I don't know if it should be more of like a boyfriend relationship advice session. I don't know if I should do it with a different guest. But overall, I want to know if you guys like those fun episodes. So send me an email or a DM and all of that, and I want to do a fun episode for you guys. We're all traumatized here, okay? Like, let's be honest. You're here because you've seen some shit. You've been through some shit. But we're allowed to have fun too, okay? Okay, I love you all so much. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a great rest of your week. Do something nice for yourself and a friend. Tell your mom or your dad or your pet or your fucking boyfriend or yourself that you love them, okay? Everybody deserves to know it. But yes, thank you guys so much for listening. I love you so much. I hope you have a great rest of your week. I'll catch you on the flip side, and cheers.